Hello and welcome to the Publisher Podcast from Media Voices. I'm Chris Sutcliffe, and this season Esther Thorpe, Peter Houston and myself are exploring the people and products powering publishing, both through the podcast and our adjacent weekly newsletter, which you can sign up for at voices.media. And if you simply cannot get enough of us, you can come along to our Podcast in a Pub event in London this November 27th. There'll be festive drinks, chats, food. You do not want to miss that. So stick around to the end for more information or go to voices.media/pod in a pub. Now this week, as part of the product-oriented remit we've set ourselves for the series, we're hearing from Ludovica D'Angelo, who's head of publishing operations for Total Politics. As we discussed in the episode, that is a very specialised publishing business and a commensurately specialised role. But for Ludovica, who has previously worked for publications as varied as The Week and a luxury food and drink magazine, it's been yet another opportunity to discover best practice around managing product teams, launching timely new newsletters and titles, and finding new revenue opportunities. It's a fascinating interview. We're really happy that she came on the podcast. We're also really pleased to have BlueConic as sponsors of this season of the Publisher Podcast and newsletter. BlueConic is the customer data operating system that makes your data work harder so you don't have to. Whether it's capturing valuable audience insights or activating them with precision, the possibilities are endless with BlueConic's all-in-one platform. You can learn more at blueconic.com, where data is for doing. Now onto the interview with Ludovica, in which I point out the fact that her remit is incredibly wide, and ask her to give a quick intro to Total Politics.
It is indeed. So yes, for people who don't know us, Total Politics is a group that specializes in media, training and events, focusing on politics, policy and the public sector. On the media side of things, we have publications like The House magazine, which is the in-house magazine for the UK Parliament. And it's been around for almost 50 years. And we have similar publications in Brussels with the Parliament and in Scotland with Holyrood. Then we have other publications like Civil Service World and Public Technology, which are aimed at the civil servants. Currently, my role at Total Politics is Director of Publishing Operations. My remit is rather wide.
Yes, so I imagine it would be, yeah.
I get confused at times. I head up the Creative Solutions Department, which delivers all the commercial campaigns and partnerships. I head up the design team. I also head up the digital products development. And last but not least, distributions and subscriptions. So never a dull day.
That just sounds overwhelming, to be honest. That is like you said, a huge remit for a particularly fast-moving organization as well. I suppose that there is so much you have to consider on a day-to-day basis from an operational perspective as well. It's not just defining those long-term strategies, it's actually managing the day-to-day aspect of things as well.
It is. And I think sometimes it can get overwhelming. I need to have priority lists. So I'm a project manager at heart. Therefore, it's very important to prioritize various tasks. So obviously creative solutions and design that never stop. We have to churn stuff. But at the moment, on the digital development side of things, there's been a big focus in the first 6 months of the year. For maintenance, we have a bespoke CMS, so maintenance and development of some new features. And then my next mammoth of a task is to focus on a little bit more on subscriptions, but that's a me problem for.
I was going to say that CMS aspect is like a full-time job in and of itself.
It is.
Yeah, God, I dread to think. I mean, having worked with various proprietary CMSs in the past, I just dread to think. But I suppose the question that naturally follows on from there then is you've taken on an awful lot there. There is a lot that is changed and has changed over the past couple of years. So how has your approach to that product-oriented thinking evolved over the past couple of years as new, I suppose, opportunities have arisen and new technological opportunities have come down the pipe as well?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go back a little bit further than 2 years, because I think the way I think about products now has been massively influenced by every step of my career. And I think I've been quite lucky. Started in back in Italy with we're working with my dad, actually. So after working all his life for the biggest publisher in Italy, when he retired, he set up his own white label content agency, and we used to publish luxury products. So it was print only, mainly clients like Cartier or watchmakers like IWC and Jaeger-LeCoultre. And I was coming out of university. My first magazine, my first project was this food and wine magazine.
Nice.
Yeah, for an Italian food retailer, like a little bit. We were inspired, like the Waitrose Food Illustrator.
Yeah, I was going to say it sounds a bit like that. Yeah, that sounds really good fun.
Yeah, and I'm talking about many, many, many years ago. But I was very lucky because we used to produce everything. So we would commission something like crazy, like 98% of our pictures to photographers. So I had to look after a product from start to finish, and I was young, and I had to come up with a concept for the issue, going out with photographers, interviewing, setting up the sets for the photo shoots, and then sitting down with the designer and come and see all the features coming out, and then signing off, sending literally blueprints to the printers, and then obviously I was in charge of the P&L. So
I mean, that is just the definition of deep end. That is so much to take on in that kind of that first role.
And that taught me, I think, the real importance of craftsmanship in publishing, and the importance of details. So that was a great, like, old school proper formation. Then when I moved to the UK, I started working for Dennis, and I spent the next 10 years working for Dennis. And then is where I got, obviously, a taste for a bigger publisher, and a taste for digital products. So I started as a project manager, went into creative solutions, then more into digital with the apps. I became digital project manager and scrum master at some point. And so all of these roles gave me the opportunity to learn to do the doing, if you know what I mean. So you know what the pain points are of literally delivering the small or bigger things. And then my last post was with Karen O'Connor as publishing manager for our current affairs titles. So The Week, Money Week, and The Week Junior. Yeah,
we love the week at Media Voices. We talk about it all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
And that was, again, that gave me, I moved into a more managerial kind of role that gave me the bird's eye view of what are all the elements that make a product a great product. So in summary, I think that there's so many aspects that go into product thinking and what is important, starting from a unique selling point. So what is it that actually makes that thing stand out, and that will help also define what your audience is going to be. Undoubtedly, quality content, high quality content. So as per my background, the expertise needs to be top notch, and same for and that will set the tone of voice. All of this goes hand in hand with the design and clear characteristic of what that brand is going to be, and what are the various elements that define its personality, if you and then obviously consistency throughout various media. It's absolutely key, as well as a seamless, as much as possible, user experience. So all of these things are I'm kind of like carrying with me into Total Politics and what we're doing now.
Nice. One of the questions I want to ask is, obviously you were talking there, very early in your career, working on luxury print, where the kind of the quality of the product is evident because it is a very physical thing. How did that focus on quality? How do you retain that focus on quality? Obviously, the week is print, the week junior as well. But as digital crept in, how did your thinking about kind of quality and having that quality led product evolve? Because it's a very different environment.
Yeah, it is. It's $1 million question. I try to so I always ask myself which again it comes a little bit from Karen O'Connor, what's in it for the readers. So we need to think about what we're content wise, what we're creating and why, and what is the added value that we're giving to readers. So it's like for newsletters or podcasts or any new features. And then in terms of like digital, we've been developing a new content hubs, for example, so very clean design, and I'm trying to replicate this into all of our websites because all the websites tend to be a little bit different, and therefore if I'm doing I need all we do I need to be lean and scalable. Therefore creating this content hubs, for example, give us the opportunity of having just editorial products or sponsored editorial or totally commercial products that have a very clean design, very easy to navigate, and that basically offer opportunities to work with in partnership with clients.
Nice, fantastic. And then from a very practical perspective, obviously when you went over to Total Politics and the group, how did you begin putting some of that in place there, coming in from, outside?
Yeah. So obviously Total Politics has a strong legacy. As I said, we've got the house has been around for almost 50 years. CSW is turning 20 years. To give you an example, when I was interviewing and about to move, half of my family, they're all civil servants. So I was asking, because obviously we're a specialist publisher, so all around Whitehall and Westminster. So I was asking, it's like, do you know anything about this? And the reaction was so overwhelming. The brands were not just they instantly knew exactly who they were, but also I knew that the brands were extremely well respected. So I knew I was walking in a company that had brands and products that had a clear definition, a well-rounded and defined audience. So when I walked in, I learned that in politics, and therefore what we do, every year is very different from the other. But an election year is incredible, and this year is especially when you have a change of government. So I'll give you a few examples of things that we've been able to do this year. So when we heard, obviously we don't publish the House magazine when the Parliament is not sitting. So we had like the 6 weeks leading to the election day, where we sat down, we talked about what ideas, what we could do, and we created a couple of new products. So basically newsletters with short bursts just during the election period. So one newsletter was aimed at prospective parliamentary candidates, and obviously some of them would one day become MP. So we created this newsletter, 6 weeks of it. We had around 2,000 recipients, and we had virtually no unsubscribers, basically, and an open rate of over 33%, which is definitely higher than what we usually have. So that was a huge success. And similarly, we did a short burst kind of and focused newsletter on our core product for the House and Politics Home, just dedicated to the campaign. So it was called Campaign Confidential, sent out every Friday. And again, it was closer to 35% open rate. So that was absolutely fantastic. And after the election, we had an incredible influx of new MPs, so like a little bit under 350. That also not just the MPs, but also parliamentary staffers. You need to think about the MPs. The relationship we have with MPs is very important. Parliamentary staffers are almost like gatekeepers to the access to MPs. So for the first time, we decided to put together and trial an event just dedicated to parliamentary staffers, and we had over 600 sign-ups, and at the back it was fantastic. At the back of that, we then decided to put together a newsletter just for them, which we're launching in the next couple of weeks. We already have like a tenth of the staffers that have signed up for it, so that will is allowing us to actually reach a slightly, if you want, like a new audience. That it opens to you a lot of possibilities in the next year or two. So that's just the beginning. But so it's not just the new products, we're also strengthening on our core products. Another example is that usually, specifically on the house, we publish something like 3-4 supplements, focus supplements each year. But with the new government, this is giving us such a great opportunity, so that we basically, for the rest of the year, we have planned to publish for every issue of the house, we're publishing another supplements, because it gives us the opportunity to give some very valuable content to MPs, like a photo guide of all the new MPs, or a guide to number 10, and that also goes hand in hand with opening commercial opportunities. So this year has been really, really interesting.
That sounds huge. I just wondered, from a very practical perspective again, when you're thinking about something like launching those, additional supplements, how many stakeholders are involved in that? And, how do you actually, I suppose, go about getting buy-in? What are the sort of KPIs and the metrics that you think we can demonstrate that this will be valuable, using these metrics?
Yeah, so the company is divided in like business units. So we have regular business unit meetings with all the heads of the various departments. Therefore, all the ideas are discussed in those meetings, which are either like on a weekly basis, to be fair. So we then try and do a little bit of proof of concept, and the main revenue stream is generally commercial. So in order to go ahead, we establish what the revenues need to be, and then if we meet it, we go ahead.
See, that's fascinating, and it goes back to something that I heard a couple of weeks ago, actually, a sort of product-oriented publishing event, which was that commercial considerations tend to be what gets a new product over the line. It's not just, a pie. It seems obvious, but it's kind of, people want to do things editorially, people want to reach new audiences, but ultimately it does come down to those commercial considerations, which really help. If you can get those people on side, the people with the purse strings, then you've got kind of an easy ride after that. So
exactly. Sorry, and it's also about, there's a lot of education, I would say, going on. So sometimes if you explain, we have a great commercial team. So when we had the staffers idea, for example, there was a lot of work that the director of sales put into literally talking to clients and explaining why we're doing that and why we thought that it's valuable investment. So of course, we can't give them like an immediate return of investment for a newsletter that doesn't exist. It's like, who knows? But if we explain exactly why we're doing it, then so far we have had a really good feedback and good return. And sometimes you need to start small, and test small, and then see how it goes, and go on a bigger scale if the concept works.
You mentioned before that obviously Total Politics and its suite of titles and products is quite specialised, and in fact it's hard to think of anywhere else in the world where you could have that suite of products all focused on something that's that level of specificity in terms of what you publish. To what extent then does that let you, I suppose, point to other publications who are sort of in the same space and go, well, look, it worked for them, therefore it could work for us as well, when you're trying to get buy-in to launch something new? Or is it all too specialized because of how unique it is as an organization?
So we do have competitors, but we are definitely extremely specialized. So our unique selling points are pretty unique. We always need to keep an eye out on what works and what doesn't work, and what is extremely so, for example, we a period of the year that is extremely important for us is party conference. So we arrange loads of fringes at like all party conferences. So we always need to keep an eye on what others are doing, but you can never rest on, we've always done it. We've done it for 50 years, therefore it's always going to work. So yeah, exactly. Also because even the needs of clients change. So it's a constant conversation with clients, for example, and see what the needs are. And we've been trialing different formats, even like a party conference events. Like this year, for the first time, we've done with Port of Dover, we've done Dover Soul, a soul concert. Yes.
Oh God, I just got the pun.
I know. But it's like we've never done anything like it before, and it was a good. There was silent disco on another.
Oh yes,
it was like super weird. So it's trial and error, and on the other hand, also it's always like asking readers what they want. So finding feedback in that.
Yeah, absolutely. That qualitative side of it is so vital. Yeah. What we're talking about products here, but no matter what we're talking about, that qualitative side of it is becoming increasingly important, I feel like, for so many people in that publishing space, because that kind of those brute force metrics can tell you a lot, but they can't tell you the nuances of what audiences want. So that's fascinating to hear. It's the same for that kind of for Total Politics as well. But obviously your role, as disparate and as kind of like spread out as it actually is, God, how do you actually go about bringing all the disparate elements that go into product at a publisher together? Because it's such a broad church in terms of roles, responsibilities, what you want to achieve. How do you go about bringing that all together and getting one coherent vision out of it?
Yeah, that's a question that is very close to my heart, and not sure whether I'm going to give you the answer that you're expecting, because it's really close to like my core values. So in every single company I've been, I've noticed that one of the biggest challenges in times is silos, and how department can be completely siloed. So you have more and more very specialized, laser focused team, extremely highly performing teams, but quite often they can not necessarily work like clockwork with other departments. So my roles like everywhere. I especially like at Dennis, obviously they knew me, like I've been there 10 years. I was famous because I got things done. And and they wouldn't use exactly that. You can change one of the words, but I got things done. And the way I did it has always been by focusing and fostering collaborations across department. So I'm very interested in people. So no matter what brand, product you're talking about, what company, behind all of this, there's people. So my main focus has always been, and I'm curious about people. So I always went into every single role. And to be fair, I think originally I was brought into Total Politics to break the silos, literally, and and to create a little bit of order from chaos, same as Dennis. And I've always been doing that with a little bit of empathy. So my first thing is try understand other people's pain points. So what we're working on very hard at Total Politics is literally fostering collaboration. So as you have your verticals and business units, I sit horizontally because with design, creative solutions, digital products, I need to make sure that we involve as much as possible all the different parts that are gonna then let's say collaborate to work on anything. So if we're coming up with a new idea for a supplement, you do need your head of design, because we need to, what's the look and feel going to be? You need your editorial team, you need my commercial, my team that works with the clients, you need the commercial team. And we are doing, and I'm trying to do that more and more and more. And that's how I think if companies would do, in my experience, it's been really transformational for teams, because when we work together, we are greater than the sum of our parts. And I hope it doesn't sound rhetoric, I truly believe in that. And it's been working.
No, well, that's the ultimate proof of that. Yeah. How important is it to have an individual, a single role, or a small team actually taking ownership of ensuring that that's all done and effective and is kept going? What are some of those benefits of having somebody with oversight of all of that?
It's absolutely crucial. So I think the role of leadership is to let individuals and single teams understand what the vision is. So always reminding them quite often, because you have everyone that is nowadays, like every teams is spread thin, companies are lean, so you have people really focusing on what they're doing. And I think with the risk of losing that perspective, it's important for managers and for the leaders of a company to constantly remind them of what the vision is, but also empower people and let them understand that they are the part they play, it's absolutely crucial. And that is the work that, for example, with my team, I do day in, day out, not just from a team perspective, empowering them and make them accountable for things. So explaining, if we have a problem, what's the problem? I don't want to tell what the solution is. I don't know what the solution is. I'm just older and maybe I had a little bit more experience, but it's like a solution that I would find at 45. It's not the same solution that 20 years old, talking about what we're going to do with X, it's going to be the same, because they have completely different mindset. And my team is really, really young. So I want to empower them and to let them understand that we are all in this together, and the results and the feedback that I found into empowering people is just fantastic. And the same effort needs to go into then managing each single individual. At the end of the day, whether back in the days, my father's worked with the same company all his life, it doesn't happen anymore. So I know that I only have this humans with me for a certain amount of time. So when I start a relationship with someone, I always, first off, I want to know, where do you want to be? What is the next reasonable step for you? And then I try to marry that up, their development, with what it's needed for the company. So it's like, so that we can marry those two things up as much as possible. And again, I think that is really transformative.
Yeah, I mean, that makes so much sense, actually, marrying kind of the personal development with the product-oriented mindset. That seems like so simple on the face of it, but so difficult to actually implement.
Yeah. And
I was going to say, it's one thing I've had experience of is the fact that silos, they're like weeds. They sometimes spring back into being as, more people join the company, and then as, roles change as well. How much of what your, a day-to-day role entails is ensuring that things are continuing to work, and it's not just a one and done process, but actually making sure that the organization is fit for purpose, for in perpetuity, really.
Yeah, it's never ending, and it is tiring. Is that because sometimes, like when you have a win, and then the day after, like something happens, and you think like you step back. So what I would say, the way I approach it, it's incremental progress. So I have a rather flamboyant personality, so it's like I'm very direct. I'm Southern Italian, so it's like people, at the beginning they might be a little bit shocked, but then they kind of like get used to me. But I just bang, whether probably before I was more after the effect of an atomic bomb. So it's like I just step in, it's just let's change everything, revolutionize everything. It doesn't really work, especially with either big companies or companies with big legacies that are set in their ways of working. So I do like to change processes and to revise, like never sit on. I really don't like when people say this has always worked, we've done it like this because we always done it like this. And I was like, well, it doesn't matter. It's like we're not it doesn't matter that we always done it. Like why people sometimes like forget why, because it's just the way you used to do things. So I do like to sit down and question things. We've done, it's like a small thing, but when I first joined, every single advertorial was designed like in a bespoke way, which was like took a huge amount of resources, time is money. So I had to streamline the process. Therefore, we created a series of templates that people were not used to. But that is just like my design team has a huge amount of like volume of pages to check.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah.
And newsletters and marketing assets and event assets and all that. So we did it, and then that was you'd think that was done and dusted. But I actually like to sit down every single year and say, okay, we've done version 1, we trialed it for a while. What is it now that we need to change to make it even better? And that multiplied all the different processes, which takes time. It might be frustrating, but I do think it's for the best, because also things change.
I was just about to say, things change, so it's kind of necessary to have that iterative approach to product development, I suppose, because then you have the ability to be flexible, and you're not just, as you mentioned before, relying on we've always done it this way, therefore it will always be suitable. That's really interesting. Oh, and that leads neatly into the next question, which is, you've worked pretty much across the breadth of publishing, from a luxury food and drink oriented print title to where you are now with Total Politics, which is very, very, very specialized indeed. How do you see the approach to product at publishers changing in response to some of those things that we teed up earlier, new opportunities and challenges that are emerging across the media landscape? How do you make sure that you're across all that and responding?
That's such a difficult question, isn't it? Because the landscape is so varied and fast paced. So I would say there's no one size fits all. It has to be. We all know, like having been in publishing basically all my life, there are challenging times, but also interesting opportunities that opens up. I would say is a mixture of things that I can think of is definitely specialized content. So whether you are like publishers like us, but even for consumer publishing, more and more focusing or offering niche areas where the the expertise is excellent, and it's like there is a lot of choice, but also that gives the opportunity of creating a niche where you will always find, if you offer a great product, you will always find your niche. I always think of our brands like luxury products, so they need to be treated like this, and offer something to people that is tailored around them. With all, there's a lot of, now you can do personalization to data, and people can actually pick what they want to hear about, and audience targeting. So there are ways of doing it, but specialized content, definitely, I think it's important to be part of the mix, as well as diversified revenue streams. So we've seen it with COVID. Obviously, never have all your eggs in one basket. So commercial obviously is absolutely fundamental, but subscriptions, it's over.
It's sometimes somehow overlooked, particularly sort of in the last couple of decades in publishing.
Yeah, 100%. Your subscriptions, but also membership models. So, offering special events and perks, and I would say making feel your audience special and important, as well as fostering community building. So you can do it like via events or awards, but it has to be layered. And for just a focus on commercial content, having worked, like, you will always have your display ads, but more and more I've seen that offering bespoke content solutions that are really tailored on clients, and offering almost like a consultancy service. So back in the days, like when I was at Dennis, like we were all project managers, and it was like we had to deal with all different brands. We didn't have particular knowledge on current affairs versus cars, for example, and but what Total Politics is teaching me, obviously we're niche, so but all my team have a great knowledge in policy and politics and public sector, and we offer sort of like memberships to clients. So it's like a packages with a certain amount of content that they can have across all different media, but my team offer a proper consultancy to them. So every client has its own consultant that works with them throughout the year or the years, and work with them on the content plan, on ideas. If there are any new bills or laws coming out, they get in touch. It's like, it's really, the service is extremely tailored, and I think that adds value, because also advertisers have a lot of choice, like they can go whatever you want. So again, even there, whether before you had your CMPs, like it was easier, maybe, I don't know, but the volumes were definitely bigger. Now we're competing for a smaller market and a smaller budget sometimes. So it's really important to stand out. And other parts of the mix obviously are multimedia content. So more and more publishers, like, you need to be everywhere.
Which has endless challenges in and of itself.
I know. And I think what possibly in publishing, what we should aim at doing more and better is not trying to, which has always been a challenge in my previous jobs, usually the temptation of just spreading the same message across all of different platforms, instead of actually you need to tailor depending on what. So give your audience the opportunity to pick their preferred medium. So whether it's a podcast, whether it's your website, whether it's social media, but I think we need collectively to be better at actually tailoring those, using different language. but still keep consistency with what the brand is, which obviously, is like easier said than done because the resources are what they are. But that's important. And finally, I would say agile development and testing. So as we were saying, test small. Maybe it's being more agile, a little bit less waterfall. You can't have everything nailed down just because it's too many things, I think, to take into consideration. So react quickly, do incremental development, and test new ideas, first small and then bigger.
Yeah, no, that all makes sense. You've teed up so much there that we could have spent more hours talking about than we have access to, the finite resources versus infinite choice among consumers, everything like that. One of the things that I think is really interesting and fascinating actually is there's a really nice virtuous circle in what you've been talking about here, from that focus on quality, which in your line of work leads to having, expertise. Your staffers are so clued up on everything to do with policy and sort of, politics. And that in turn opens up these new revenue opportunities for you through consultancy. So having that really good focus on product and quality of product has opened up so many avenues for you as you've sort of moved through your career, whether that's, in food and drink all the way through to where you are now. I think that's a fascinating approach to sort of an anchor, a North Star almost for product development for publishers.
Yeah.
Nice.
You summarise it brilliantly. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Better job than me.
Well, Ludo, thank you so much for that. That's been fascinating. Like I said, we could have spoken about all of that for the entire length of the podcast. For people who are looking to find out more about Total Politics, where can they go to sort of get an overview?
Yeah, so it's pretty easy. It's totalpolitics.com.
That's as easy as you could possibly make it.
I know, yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. No, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I hope that the audience has taken as much away from that as I have. I think that's really, really fascinating. And it's inspirational in a way, knowing that you can focus so much on product and actually product and audience together, and you can actually come away with something which is not just viable, but vital for people as well. Well, thanks again to Ludovica for coming on. It was a proper pleasure. And as I mentioned there, aspirational as well. We're going to be back next week with another dive into the people and products powering publishing's future. But until then, you can keep up with all things Media Voices by following us on LinkedIn, subscribing to the publisher newsletter over on voices.media, or, as we mentioned in the beginning, you can bomb along to our Pod in a Pub event in London this November 27th. Come and join us for festive food, drinks and chat. But here's the thing, we only have 25 spaces and they're going fast. So if you'd like to grab one of the remaining tickets, go to voices.media/pod-in-a-pub. That's voices.media/pod-in-a-pub. But until next week, when we will be back with another podcast, thank you so much for listening and goodbye.